Alanis Obomsawin is one of this country's most distinguished documentary filmmakers. Her half-century-long career includes 50 films made for the National Film Board of Canada. Her pioneering work include films about the Oka Crisis, the housing crisis in Attawapiskat, and the court battle over the federal government's treatment of children in care. She has received the Governor-General's Lifetime Achievement Award. Her latest film, Our People Will Be Healed, premiered at this year's Toronto International Film Festival, and we are very pleased to welcome Alanis Obomsawin to our studio tonight. What a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
We are going to talk all about your latest documentary, but first I think we should share a little snippet of it with the good folks watching, okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Director, if you would, please.
We went to the local high school. They had an instant dislike. You never walk by yourself as a woman, as a girl, young girl. We never walked by ourselves because you never knew what was going to happen. It was always that fear, you know, that we were always on guard as to, you know, when the next trauma was going to hit. So, you know, and the same thing in the classrooms, you know, we were still learning out of textbooks that they were teaching us that we were savages. And I remember being taken to the office, principal's office, many a time because I just refused to sit in this classroom, and it's just one of these ways that we rebelled.
Alanis, let's start with a compare and contrast, because that was a description of the experience back in the day. And your new picture focuses on a northern Manitoba school situation, which seems like 180 degrees away from that. Can you help us understand the difference?
The difference is so large. Mainly, I think it's because of the visionary feeling of the people who are in the leadership. This school, I believe, is about 10 years old, and just the building itself is so beautiful. There's so much light in there. The children are happy. They run from the bus to get into the classroom. It's the whole atmosphere and the whole caring for children to feel included, to feel they belong, to know about their treaties, to know about their culture, their tradition.
And many of the teachers are Indigenous as well.
Yes.
Which presumably contributes to that ambiance.
Yes, and also many from Norway House itself.
Norway House is the name of the town in Manitoba. What I really found interesting about this documentary is, unlike most documentaries one sees that have an Indigenous theme, there's no conflict in this one, really. I mean, this is a nice story. It's a success story.
Yes.
Is it challenging to tell a compelling story when there's not a big conflict in it?
Oh, no, it's so wonderful. You know, like you breathing better. It's just so... I still don't know what the language is to describe what I feel, because people say, oh, it's hopeful, it's wonderful, but it's much higher than that. It's another place, it's much more profound. And the feeling of feeling good in your skin, who you are, and what you look like, and what you feel like, and to be included. And it's like standing on the earth, and this is, I belong here, and I feel good. That's what it is. You
interview, obviously, many students in the documentary. Yes. So I remember that one little kid who didn't know how many brothers and sisters he had, or you had to ask him 4 or 5 times. Now, are you sure it's 3 or 4? Anyway, difficult to interview students under such circumstances?
No, I love it. It's so comfortable. It's like the feeling that nobody feels outside. You're inside, and you belong, and you're loved, and you love. That's, to me, what this film is about.
But how many of the kids would you say came from challenging circumstances at home?
Well, there are a lot of challenging. There's a lot of discomfort and a lot of feeling that is old and like you don't belong here, and you have alcohol problem, or you feel like killing yourself. And now, you know, the greatest thing that's happening to us is that our own people, young people, are turning their back to those feelings and saying, no, let's go back to how our ancestors were, the traditions, the what's in your heart and in your soul, and let's go back to this is where you really will heal. This is why that title is there, because of Gordon Walker, who says this. He says, our people will be healed. And it's more than the feeling, it's happening.
That notion of belonging and where home is obviously runs throughout your documentary. But I want to ask about you. Where do you have that feeling of home and belonging? Where in this country? Well,
believe you me, it didn't come overnight. Like if I'm doing what I'm doing, it's because of my own childhood that was extremely difficult and very dangerous and unhappy.
Where did it start for you?
When I left the reserve.
Is it in Quebec?
Yes. When you're in the community, like you're not pointed at that you're poor or you know, it's they're. I don't know how to express like when poverty was not poor. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's those feelings that people who didn't have very much money or a lot of openings to do great things did great things. They were great cooks. They did wonderful things with very little. And there's in this, if you want to call this poor, there's a richness there that it was never recognized. And we have to go back to those things.
I'm wondering how you got here in the first place, because you're from New Hampshire, aren't you, originally?
I was born in New Hampshire, in Lebanon, New Hampshire.
How did you end up in Quebec?
Because my parents come from there, come from Odanak, which is a reservation in the province of Quebec. Both my parents were born there. But our people travel all the time. Like New Hampshire, New England was our land. This is Wampanoag territory. That's where I was born. And this idea of you're in the States or in Canada was not like that before. And it's still the borders and the difference of the separation of land came with the newcomers. And but our people just kept going there, and they just lost. They lost their land. You know, there were wars for 300 years with our people. And
where do you live now?
I live in Montreal, and I have a house in my community.
I want to take you back to 1990 now, and those of us of a certain age well remember the demonstrations at Oka, Quebec. And you made a documentary there called Knesset Hockey, 270 Years of Resistance. And let's take a look at a clip from that, and then we'll come back and chat. Roll it, please, Sheldon.
A peace camp is established in Oka. On this first weekend, more than 2,500 people come from across the continent to show their support for the Mohawk Nation.
For over 100 years, they have tried to look after us, but they have failed miserably. It is us who can determine what is best for us. We will determine our own future.
The greatest threat to unity and democracy in this country is not the Aboriginal people, nor the Quebec, but rather the lack of leadership of the Government of Canada.
This was such an intractable dispute. For those who weren't in Canada at the time or who are younger and don't remember it, I mean, you had the town of Oka, you had the province of Quebec, you had different police forces, you had the Government of Canada, you had Indigenous leadership as well, clashing. Remind everybody what it was about. Clashing over a golf course, right?
Yes, a golf course and condominiums that they wanted to build in that area, which is a sacred area for the Mohawk people. And it's their land and also their cemetery. And the lack of respect towards that was very big.
It was a sacred burial ground.
Yes, yes.
How did you, now when you did this documentary, you got on both sides of the barricades on this one, right? How were you able to sort of negotiate your way around soldiers and police forces and demonstrators? And I mean, that was a scary time for a while.
It was horrible, and it was very threatening in a lot of ways. Because at first we weren't allowed in the village, and finally we got accreditation, and the police told us, you can only stay on this road. You're not allowed to go on side streets, not allowed to go on the golf course and behind the barricade. So, you know, after obeying this for a day and a half or so, and I said, that's not what we're here for. We have to do what we're not supposed to do, and we start going behind the barricades every day. And some days, you know, I was threatened by one particular police officer. He said, Madame Obomsawin, if I see you tonight, if you come back from the back, I will going to take the accreditation away from you, and you won't be allowed to continue this filming. And so I stayed around, you know, with the crew, and they said, oh, we better not go. And then I said, no, we're going. You know, we're here to document what's happening.
And he did not take your pass away?
Well, when I came out, you know, in the evening time, I thought, oh, la la, what's going to happen at 9:30? And we were coming out, and there was a reporter actually from Channel 12, and a very tall guy. And me, I didn't have any, I had low heel shoes. We looked like Mutt and Jeff coming down. He said, I better walk with you. They'll think you're a warrior trying to run away. So when we came to there was a barricade the police had, and they had a light on you, so you could not see who you're speaking to. And I thought, oh my God, I hope that same policeman is not there, the one who told me he was going to take my accreditation away. So then, what's your name? And in a very rough way, you say your name. Where do you work? And I say, National Film Board of Canada. And I hear a voice that I cannot see. A police officer said, oh, Madame Obomsawin, I love everything you do. What are you going to do? Are you going to sing us what's happening here? Are you going to make a film? But I could not see the face, and I was so relieved, and it was so nice how I just passed through.
You didn't expect that to happen, did you?
No.
No.
But it was just the way he said it. I said, oh, my goodness. No.
Now, when you're in the field making a film, I want to better understand how you see your role, because there's sort of classic neutral, straight-ahead documentary filmmaking, and then there is, you know, more political activism. Where are you on that continuum?
I'm all over.
All over?
Yes. I am, you know, I'm documenting, so we document everything we see and feel and hear. And it's, in situations like that, you know, you're dealing with the police and you're dealing with soldiers and guns everywhere, and I hate guns. And at first when I came and I saw all those guns, I thought, how am I going to function here? Because, you know, if you go to someone's house, sometimes they collect guns, it's on the wall, and they're beautiful, and I'm always uncomfortable about that. So now, you know, it was guns, gun, gun. But it was very difficult, and, you know, you got insulted by the army, by the police. At the same time, there were police officers and soldiers who were extremely gentlemen and were trying to be helpful as much as they could. So it's not one thing, it's many things. Were
you welcomed on the Mohawk side of the barricade?
Yes. But a lot of people knew me before I went there. So, but nobody thought it was going to last that long. We thought maybe one weekend, maybe 4 or 5 days. It was 78 days.
Yeah, it went on for months, didn't it?
Yes.
I want to ask you about John Grierson. And again, for people of a certain age, John Grierson is a legendary name in this country. I mean, he essentially helped found the National Film Board. You knew him, didn't you?
Yes, I was lucky because he came back to Montreal for a period of time in his late years. And he was teaching at McGill, and he had an apartment in Montreal, and he would gather people. A lot of young people went to his place. And, you know, there would be discussions. It was a very exciting time. And I feel very fortunate that I got to be friends with him and told me so many things that are so important. When you think one man, one mind, one soul, influenced the Prime Minister of Canada at that time, which was Mackenzie King, to start a film unit. But not only that, he did it in 4 countries. He went to India, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. And if you know, no other country has that kind of institution where we can make films and express ourselves of all nations, all races. It's incredible.
Let's do another clip here from another one of your pictures. Okay. This one's called Trick or Treaty.
Yes. That says a lot there.
It does. It's a great takeoff, too. Okay, let's roll a clip from that, please. Trick or treaty.
I want to get rid of the Indian problem. I do not think, as a matter of fact, that the country ought to continuously protect a class of people who are able to stand alone. Our objective is to continue until there's not a single Indian in Canada that has not been absorbed into the body politic, and there is no Indian question and no Indian department. That is the whole objective of this bill.
And he's the same guy who sat down with my grandfather to talk about the treaty. And the sad part is, 2013, is there Duncan Campbell Scots who think that way in Toronto, Kingston, Ottawa, Montreal, Ottawa? You're darn right there is.
One of the other themes that runs through that film, we learn a lot about female leadership in Indigenous communities. And I want to get a better understanding of whether you think being a woman has helped you raise awareness and speak with a stronger voice on the issues that you care about.
Amongst our people, yes, but not in the other world, I would say no. Because when I first began work in this field, of course I knew what racism was and I knew all those difficulties in functioning. So whenever there would be a large problem, I was shocked to realize it wasn't because I was Indian, it was because I was a woman. And that part was new to me in my world in terms of surviving and doing things that are out of the usual.
Are we getting closer to some kind of reconciliation between the settler culture and the Indigenous peoples of this land?
I'd say at this time, right now, I am very thankful that I'm 85 years old.
Say that again, because no one's going to believe you.
I am 85 years old since the 31st of August, that I have lived long enough to see the difference and to see how respected we're starting to feel from the colonizers and how people, I think, are tired of seeing injustices and the treatment that our people have received all these years, for 150 years. And the reconciliation, of course, the movement has really helped to make the change. And everywhere I go in this country, I see the difference, I feel the difference. And for me, education is the main important thing in everyone's life. And I see the will and of wanting to change the curriculums and to make sure that across the country, the real history of this country will be taught to children, to young people. And the will of including all the different nations, some areas, some universities, some high schools, they're teaching different languages, where in our days we were punished, we spoke our language. So, you know, it's such a big difference. And everywhere I go, I just feel an incredible respect that I never felt before.
That's wonderful to hear. And if people want to see a positive story about education, they should check out your new film, Our People Will Be Healed, the 50th film in the 50th year of filmmaking for Alanis Obomsawin. Thank you so much for coming into TVO tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.